So hi, I'm Christina Amos. I live in Ottawa, Canada, the capital of Canada, and I'm originally from Halifax, but I grew up here in Ottawa, and I moved around quite a bit in my adulthood. I went to university in Montreal prior to joining cruise ships, where I got to sail the world for 5 years, and then I lived in the Galapagos Islands for 8 years. And then I moved back to my home city of Ottawa because of my daughter and my family, and to be closer to my parents and my siblings. And that is where I'm at the moment. So I have the honor of promoting the capital region to meeting planners around the world. It was a great experience. Very hard work. The life of a cruise ship staff member isn't as glamorous as the Love Boat may have made it seem. I got a lot of Julie McCoy jokes, I will tell you that. So I had done a minor in education at university, and I had done a major in contemporary dance. So the dance didn't get me too far. I had an accident and hurt my back. So I thought I would tap into the education portion of what I had studied in teaching, and I decided that I wanted to work with children and continue that passion for traveling that I had sort of grown up with in my life. And I thought the best way to combine working with kids and traveling the world is on a cruise ship. So I became the manager of the children's program on board with Royal Caribbean, and it was fantastic. I got to see so many different ports, meet people from different cultures all around the world. Did get a little bit of time off in each port, and got to experience a lot of amazing. It's so important to have work life, family life balance these days, that as an older person than I was going back a few years to the ships, I wouldn't sacrifice that time away from my family at this point in my life. So yeah. I was also single at the time. I had no children. I had, parents that were healthy and a nice, strong, supportive community to be able to go and travel all this time and be away. And now all those parameters have altered. So now I'm a real adult. Finished my last contract, and I thought I sort of want to get my land legs and give up my sea legs for now. And my dad actually said to me, well, what now? What do you want to do now? You've had this big adventure. What's your next adventure? Going to be hard to top that one. And I said, well, I'd like to continue teaching. I really liked working with the kids, and I liked that relationship and having that relationship with the children and seeing them learn new things or experience new places. So my dad said, well, why don't you take your teaching and study English as a second language teaching, and then you can really travel anywhere with that. So I did that, and I thought to myself, if there's one place in the world that I would love to go, where would it be? And it was the Galapagos Islands. I had done a project on the tortoises in grade 6, and was always fascinated that you could go there and you could see it, and the theory of evolution was created there and whatnot. So I plugged in ESL teaching, Galapagos Islands, enter, and one position came up, and I applied for it, and I packed my one backpack, and I left the next day. So I left for 8 months with one backpack, and I returned 8 years later with 3 boxes, a husband, and a baby. A human baby, not a tortoise baby. Yeah, well, my daughter is amazing. All parents, I think their kids are amazing, and it was interesting to me because I'm very extroverted, and I never anticipated having an introverted child. I always just presumed I would have a mini me, and lo and behold, I do not. I have a mini ex-husband in the shape of a cute little girl. A lot more reserved, very analytical, looks around. She'll become extroverted with her friends when she's in a comfortable situation, but it's definitely been the hardest job I've ever had, to be a parent. Yeah, I know it's the hardest job I've ever had, to be a parent, because no one is telling you what you're doing right or what you're doing wrong, and often there isn't a right or wrong answer. You just go with it. One day it might turn out well, the next day it might not turn out as well, but I'm very fortunate to have Maya in my life, and those moments where she does do a big jazz hand like her mom just overwhelm me with pride. So she's a superstar. And her dad chose to stay in Canada, which is huge because he is from Ecuador. And again, going back to that family connection and closeness, he made a conscious choice to stay in our country despite being away from his parents and his culture and his food and his weather. He made a conscious decision to stay for my daughter and for me at the time. And that connection is something that's special and magical. And for new Canadians or new residents to Canada, he and she both had my full support and my family's full support. But in looking to those other people that might be coming alone, or their entire family is coming and they don't have those support networks set up or even know that they exist, that's heart-wrenching to me. So it's very important, circling back to family and support, that family and support are united. It's one big massive heartbeat of how we function. And I'm very proud of my whole family. And you may have had a vision of how things were going to transpire in place, and when that doesn't happen, it's cliche, but another door opens and a door closes, and the world has endless possibilities, really. So you're right, saying yes, you never know what's going to happen. So I took that risk, and here I am, taking that one step out to those islands completely altered the path that I thought I had established for myself. I've been back in Canada now almost 8 years. So my daughter turned 3 when we first moved back here, and she's about to turn 11 in October. And funny story, when we first moved back, I thought I had prepared my little family for winter, and it's very cold, and here's a picture of snow, and this is what it looks like, and it's very cold. And we get to Canada, and that wasn't, they were prepared for the cold, that was fine. But what they weren't prepared for was actually the implementation of things to help us deal with the cold, such as mittens, for example. So the first day there was snow on the ground, I said to my daughter in Spanish, okay, you've got to put your mittens on so you can play outside. And she just looked at me and she said, what are mittens? And I suddenly had this realization that in trying to prepare everyone for the changes, I had left out all of the key details of actually how we would do this, or seeing my husband at the time try to, for us it's common knowledge, right? If your windscreen on your car is covered with ice, you get out your ice scraper. This is just a tool that we have. We've grown up with it. We know what it is. And I remember looking out my apartment window and seeing my ex-husband down there just staring at the car, absolutely bewildered. And he looked up at me and I said, you gotta you gotta get the scraper out of the car. And he said, I don't know what you're talking about. So he took out a paper towel and he was going, and I just thought, oh wow, I am really not prepared my family for what's about to come. But lessons learned. Sometimes you overlook the details when you're looking at the big picture. Exactly. So. And I think the reverse is true as well, because sometimes you're so focused on those little details that you don't see the larger picture. So a happy medium would be ideal. Here comes the crying part. So I knew this was coming. A wish for my world at the moment would be finding a cure for cancer. That's actually probably my wish for the entire world, but it does have a personal connection with me at this point. My dad's been diagnosed with his 3rd bout of cancer, and despite beating the first 2, this last one is a bit of a gem. So he has pancreatic cancer, and he's terminal at this point. So we're all doing the best we can to help him and support him and help one another and support one another. And my wish for the world would be to never stop helping one another. And on top of that, finding a cure for all these horrible things that we just can't get a grasp on. And years ago when I was little, everyone knew someone who knew someone with cancer. And now in my world, everyone I know has a direct relation with cancer. And it's a horrible word, and it's a horrible disease. And my wish would be to completely alleviate that and encourage people to help one another through it. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, to watch this happen. And the little glimpses of my dad making jokes are more and more special with each and every passing moment. So I will take them with every ounce of passion and hugs and everything that I can. Absolutely right. And not everybody, I would say, is comfortable reaching that point of vulnerability even with their own family members, right? And you really need to get through that, whatever that means to you. I need to be okay to have my sister, my stepmom, my dad see me cry. I needed to learn that I don't have all the answers, not because I'm not educated about the whys, but no one has the answers. There's no one person that says, I know why your dad's dying. I know why your sister has breast cancer. I know why no one has those answers. And realizing that is huge, because then you can help everyone else realize that at least if you're together, the questions become, there's still questions, but the hardship that comes along with not having answers is lessened. And showing that vulnerability to your family is huge, because they're feeling the same as you, and having that supportive reality and that supportive group is very important. And we're not used to that. I mean, even myself, I started to cry, and I was cognizant of the fact I was going to do it, and I didn't want to say sorry. I didn't want to say, sorry, Bernice, I'm about to cry, because we shouldn't be. We shouldn't be sorry to tell a sad story and cry, whether you're at work, whether you're at home, whether you're at the grocery store. I met a beautiful checkout woman at the grocery store just 2 weeks ago. I was at Walmart, and this moment really made a huge impact for me. And I was checking out, and my phone rang, and it was my dad, and he was still quite lucid, and he asked me to go to the movies. And I said, great, I'll pick you up in an hour, Dad. I'll see you soon. Like, can't wait to see you. And I hung up the phone, and I kept checking the groceries through, and the lady said, you're so lucky that your dad lives here in your country and in your city. My parents just were here to visit from a foreign country, and they've just returned, and I really miss them already, and they just left today. And I started to cry. And of course I said, I'm sorry, this is awkward. And she said, no. She said, what? I'm going to give you a hug. And she just gave me this big hug. And I said, we're both very fortunate to have our parents still in our lives. And she said, yes. And I walked out of the store, and I went to put the things in my trunk, and she actually had left her post and came running up to me outside in the Walmart parking lot. And she said, I don't know what you're going through, but I feel you and I see you. And, I want to give you a hug. Is that okay? Another hug. And I said, absolutely. And I shared that with her. And it was just so special, because she said, I can see your spirit. And sometimes people don't share what that spirit is. And I think that's for each person to choose, but it's a little bit sad. And the fact that she could share that moment with me was very, very impactful. And the next time I was back, I went through her line again, and she asks about my dad, and I ask about her family. And it was just so touching to have that special connection with a total stranger with no background information, from two different cultures, just happening to be in the same space at the same time. And I think those connections are amazing and wonderful and just beautiful. So yeah, those moments are amazing and fantastic, and those connections are fascinating. And that one moment in the Walmart grocery checkout is one moment I will never forget in my whole life, because of what that tiny 45-second interaction meant. And something for all of us to remember. You don't know what your actions or statements, or you don't know what's being shared and what's being received, for what reason, or where everyone else is coming from at that moment in time. But challenges exist everywhere, and it's how you spin those challenges into positive moments that make a difference in the world. I heard a little nugget of information at a conference a few weeks ago, which is in regards to putting yourself out there and trying new things and opening new doors. And you know, the worst thing that could happen is you become memorable. And this was in terms of talking in front of a large group of people, or it was in terms of public speaking, actually. And that's something that I'm sort of toying with as it's piquing my curiosity to learn more about public speaking. And I'm not shy to do so. And I remember the speaker said, you know, the worst that can happen is that you're memorable. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you fail, you learn from your failures. If you succeed, you learn from your successes. And I think it's good for everyone to remember that you're enough, you're good enough. And if you want to try new things, go for it. Do it. Don't be scared. Don't hesitate. Don't think that you're not enough, whether your idea is huge or your idea is small. You are enough. You've come up with that idea. Do it. Try it. Take the leap. Take the leap. Open the door. You never know what's going to happen, and you have nothing to lose and the entire world to gain. So.